Okay, well, my watch says we're at 9 o'clock. Or excuse me, 10 o'clock. Yeah, it's one of those days already. So I'll call the meeting to order. We have a agenda before us here. Do you have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. So moved. Motion is second.
Bree, that was Kelly and Kendall.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we have meeting minutes from August 16th, 30th, and September 13th. Chance to peruse those. Commissioner Stahl just arrived as well, so. For Bree or?
Yeah, Bree.
Bree, okay.
I move to approve the minutes from 8/16 to the 30th and 9/13.
Okay. Second,
Second, Kelly.
okay.
I was like pulling teeth.
So these are the easy things, people. Okay, all in favor of approving minutes as presented?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Public comment. Do we have any public?
There's no one online.
Okay. So we'll get into payables. Any questions? Any questions? Yeah, any?
Well, for everyone's information, Rachel is at a training in Spokane this week and not joining us today. If you have questions, please make them easy.
That'd be simple. Any questions? Do we have a motion to approve? Commissioner Dahl made the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ruth Kendall seconded it, so. Any just further discussion? I'm guessing not. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Financial report for August 2023. John, you're probably not here.
Yeah, so unless there are any questions, there's nothing unusual or out of the ordinary or scary in the August financial, unless there are any questions.
Perfect. That's amazing. Yeah, you're pretty easy today. Okay, no action required for that. Approval of an emergency resolution for Abernathy repairs.
So this is in a site visit to the Abernathy Tower. We found that two of the walls of the structure are damaged and in urgent need of replacement before the weather starts getting rougher. The equipment inside won't survive the weather with the walls in the condition they are. So we're asking for an emergency resolution. We already have had one bid to make the repairs. The emergency resolution allows us to get the repairs done in a timely fashion without having to go through the bid process and that drawn out length of time, so. We're asking for, again, this resolution to conduct emergency repairs at the Abernathy site.
So, what was one bid on roughly
35,000,
right in that area?
and that will replace 2 walls and the roof structure to keep the equipment inside safe from the weather.
How big a structure is that?
It's about, I think it's in the, roughly in the quote. I want to say it's 12 feet by 20 or so.
Okay.
Who's the bid from?
J.H. Kelly.
Okay.
They went up and did a survey and looked at it to see what was needed and submitted a proposal.
And how often do we get up to look at these things?
Very often now that we have Brandon.
Yeah.
More often now than we ever have.
He actually discovered it. We've had some work done up there before, had like the floor replaced, probably about 4 years ago. And, Brandon was up there, painted it, resealed it. Went up there this year. We get like 15 feet of snow there, so it pretty much buries that shelter.
Yeah.
And then we have big chunks of ice that fall, from the tower and do damage. So it's not gonna make it through another winter.
What elevation is
I don't know. I can find out, but really high.
It is, yeah, I haven't actually been to the site, but I've been up in that area. You can see a long way.
Really?
Yeah.
Spots.
And about by the end of October, you can't even get up there at all.
Hmm.
Like they take snowmobiles if we have issues up there. So,
So,
and we already lost.
Did Brandon, because I know he's been in construction, but did he think that the bid?
Yes.
But I know everything's just out of control right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what in your mind, thought of job used to cost this and they were close to.
Yeah, the next available option would be to replace the building entirely, and then we're looking at 150,000 at least to do something like that. And then having to shut down equipment, move equipment, power up equipment. We don't have a big enough footprint to build a new structure next to it, and move to, et cetera. So this repair makes the most sense for the existing construction.
So the resolution really is for speeding up the process.
Yes,
The funds to do it probably have in reserve.
we do. We have the funds to do it. Yeah,
We're really just trying to speed it up.
exactly. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? What's your
Motion?
I'm ready to entertain a motion, yeah.
No move.
Okay,
Kelly.
Kelly,
Second.
Kendall? All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Go forth, sponsor.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Are you gonna get another, are you expecting more bids in at all?
No, we're not. Okay. And in order to expedite it, we're with this approval, we'll have to each go ahead and do work and get it done before we start being inundated with weather up there.
Okay. So then we also have an RFQ for radio upgrade architecture engineering.
Okay, this is, you gotta,
If you didn't see it next to the packets, there was an updated version. A couple things added to it. Excuse me. There's been a lot of work done on the radio as far as some radio replacements since about 2017. We did go out for an RFP in 2020 to do some improvements and upgrades. We were doing the building, there were delays in moving that forward, and then we couldn't get equipment and on and on and on, and then we had emergency things that we had to do. So then we got the grant, so we were waiting for that grant money to kick in, which we were notified a couple weeks ago that that should happen in October, that they should be distributing the money in October. Then we found out that some of the equipment that we were gonna use from that 2020 RFP is not gonna be manufactured anymore. They're not selling it anymore. And the price of a piece of particular equipment that we need is like a gateway thing. We need like 110 of them. They were $2,000, but they don't make them anymore. They've made a new thing. And it's like $14,000. And I think that that is such a substantial change in the cost of doing this project, replacing microwaves and gateways, and that we should go out for bid again. I'm gonna retire in June.
January.
And, I think that it's probably a responsible thing to do to have a consulting team that are professional radio engineers come in, look at our system and tell us, how are we gonna make this better for the next 10 or 15 years? Come in, do some engineering studies, some topography studies, and coverage studies, and help us build something. You know, maybe we don't need these gateways that are now $14,000 a piece, and there's new technology and we can do something different. I know that all of the microwaves, you know, need to be replaced, and so do we continue with the microwaves that we've been using to replace? Do we do something different? Do we identify some other sites where maybe we could put equipment? But we don't have radio engineers that work for us. So I think that we need to bring in a consulting team where they can put together that design, and they're agnostic as far as manufacturers go. And let's build something that is gonna make our system healthy for the users and the comm center and the community for the next 15 or 20 years. We still have a debacle in the Woodland area that we got to figure out. Are we, you know, building a new structure down there? Or is there something already, you know, in that area or in Clark County that, you know, we could put equipment on? And that's what these consultants will come in and do. And in this RFQ, we've indicated that they need to be certified, you know, engineers and design engineers that are on their team putting this together, and not somebody that's not certified to do this.
So this approval that we're asking for is for the RFQ to have firms submit for us to choose which firm will do the engineering and the review and coverage studies and such.
So would the grant cover the engineering study as well? Or just the equipment?
Only equipment.
Okay.
But we do have money in reserves because we've been planning for this for a while, so we put my money in reserves for equipment replacement and expansion and that kind of stuff. And I don't have the exact number, Rachel would have that, but it is pretty healthy.
Do you have any kind of inkling of the ballpark where this study may come in?
You mean price wise?
Yeah.
I don't want to say that in an
Yeah.
open meeting, but
Maybe that, yeah. it's
Yeah.
probably about it.
yeah. So.
But,
I have an
well,
idea.
within what our reserves are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I have some comments, but maybe I'll reserve them for the radio update, probably more appropriate for that section.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve this? So moved. Oh, okay. Motion in a second,
I'll second.
Ruth, okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carries. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, board and committee reports, LawTac, do we have a LawTac update at all? Maybe not.
Troy usually the one that.
Yeah.
runs that, so.
Okay. We'll have about a fire tack. Bill, Bill, do you have any update on fire tack? You're muted.
Brandon should be on here, so
I'm here and no update. We will be meeting the second week of October. We skipped this month.
I don't think Bill wants to talk to us either. Are you there, Bill?
yeah, but Brandon's the chair of that, not me.
He was momentarily.
Bill, we're unable to hear you if you're, or even when you're unmuted.
It's Brandon. Can you hear me? Hello?
Brandon, do you have anything?
Hello? Can you hear me?
You're in the window.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Be able to hear votes either.
Apparently they can't hear us
If
in
they're
Yeah.
voting, we're not hearing them.
Are you guys online hearing this at all?
Yes, can you hear me, Alan?
And you saying yes?
Okay,
Usually you hear them voting.
Let's check and make sure what speaker it's going.
yeah. Andy, since you indicate you can hear us, could you kind of give us a voice check or a mic check and make sure we're getting sound through?
Yes,
Oh, there
we can hear each other internally, but
We're not, okay.
go. We were earlier when we said good morning.
Yeah,
Andy, can you try it now?
test, 1, 2, 3.
okay,
Perfect. There we go. Thank you.
okay. So Bill or Brandon, do you have any updates for us on the fire tack?
He puts up, Brandon said no, they're meeting at end of October. It's in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah, and Chief Amanja says, no, we have not met.
okay. And just out of courtesy of those online, I guess, was there any comments on any of our previous things that you guys had that we missed?
None here.
Okay,
Thank you. Sorry about that audio issue.
technology has come a long way, but still not perfect.
Well, in here, we've been focused on getting the floor stabilized and then we'll stabilize this.
Yeah.
Make this more user friendly.
So we go to user fee update. Do we have the updates there?
That is part of the budget work we've been doing, and we did have a budget workshop last week, and I'll talk about that.
Okay. Which we'll move to now. Put your mic down.
There we go. Thank you. And thank you very much for the approval on those two other items. We appreciate that. That'll help us out. We currently have 17 dispatchers scheduled to the floor. We have a new trainee that started on September 11th, Ashlyn Munson, and she is training on night shift. And we have 7 non-represented staff. And we just made a final offer to a part-time public records request administrative assistant. And she'll be starting on October 2nd. Joining us on a part-time basis. Okay, that's part-time. And as to climate and culture, again, steady improvement. We are, the building, of course, has been a big boon for that. And dispatchers are enjoying the building. In fact, they've added a bird feeder that sticks to the window on the back, so they can hopefully get the birds to participate there. We have started up our internal peer support team, and we're working on getting them as much training as we can. And they're working with the state peer support teams to bring that up to speed and get us ready to go. And the dispatchers have very much appreciated. Longview Police has reached out to us regarding their debrief and their peer support team. In fact, they have a meeting here in this room this afternoon. And they've invited our peer support team as well as the dispatchers to participate. And dispatchers greatly appreciate that. Thank you for that. And we've also begun the implementation of the Mindbase application we talked about before. So that's moving right along. As to facility update, we did make our final payment, construction payment to Patriot. It's not including the change that we are, again, the state has to authorize us to release those funds. But that's the last piece of that left. We do have some warranty items underway with Patriot. We're trying to instill in them the urgency of a couple of those. One of them, quite frankly, is a foundation leak. Got a little bit of water coming through in this room right along that back wall.
Don't worry.
Yeah, not enough to scare us, but enough to set off our water detection, our leak detection system. So where's the water coming from? We haven't had rain. So
Yeah, I was gonna say.
it was a few weeks ago when we did have that rain. So
Okay.
we know we're expecting rain. In fact, the company that's going to address that will be here this afternoon as well at 3 o'clock. So we're working through those items. We talked about the Abernathy radio site as part of the resolution. And currently here in the new facility, our last 5 consoles are being built out. We're trying some different configurations with monitors and things, so hopefully it'll make life a little bit easier for the dispatchers as well as the technology that they're using. And then for miscellaneous, we did have, last week we had a budget workshop with the board, and thank you for those of you that attended. And I need Chief Hood asked me a question about, in that budget meeting, the expenses this year, if they go back to January 1, and I may have misspoke. So I wanted to clarify with Deanna, the items that we're purchasing, will the grant cover items we're purchasing this year, or do we have to wait till a certain period of time?
Are you talking about radio stuff?
Yes.
What they told us was anything purchased after January 1st of 23, we could include as part of that grant,
Okay. So that
But-
was correct. Okay.
with the caveat. We can't guarantee anything, meaning until you get the money.
Right.
But yes, anything after January 1 of 23.
Good. That's what I thought I had heard. So that was the information I shared in the budget workshop. So hope we can
Yeah.
answer that quick.
Yeah, most times when we've gotten federal grants, like we're getting one in October, we can't spend any money. We can't even order the equipment until we say the award date.
Yeah.
Typically the federal grants on those.
Until the money was actually given to you.
Actually officially awarded.
It has been officially awarded,
Okay,
but we just haven't received the funds yet.
Okay.
And we did clarify that because their language was like, okay, yeah, in October, it made it sound like award the money, so I wrote back to them and said, clarification, please. These documents say we were awarded the funds early 23. And now you're saying they'll be awarded in October, and she said, no, we'll disseminate the money in October. So it was already awarded.
Very good. And as to the budget workshop, we were endeavoring to get the budget approved in this meeting in September. The bylaws call for that. I know historically it's been November, December before the budget actually gets approved by the board. So we were trying to get that out so that all agencies will know what their user fees will be, so you can find more budgets. But at the request of the board members that were here at the budget workshop, we will have that in the October meeting. Will be the budget approval, clarifying a couple of things and making a couple of minor adjustments. So that was it for the budget workshop meeting. Other miscellaneous items, I will be out of state on vacation starting September 29th through October 12th. I'll be back in the office on Friday, October 13th. And while I'm out, should you need anything, Jerry will be your primary point of contact, and Jerry will be in contact with me throughout. I'll have my phone with me. I won't be carrying my work phone all of the time. I'll have access to it throughout the day from time to time. So if there's something you need me for, please feel free to reach out. But primary point of contact while I'm out will be Jerry. And then, of course, whoever else you need for specific items, Rachel, finance, bring for HR things, etc. And then next month's meeting will be here on October 18th. And then any other radio updates, I'll turn it over to Deanna. Deanna, you have anything to add for radio?
Just that the battery project is, I'll say, moving along. We're still waiting for parts to be delivered, and they went back out with Brandon and Day Wireless did a walkthrough of some of the sites that they couldn't get to when they actually did. We have to do some reinforcement on some of the floors. Other than that, nothing's really changed. We're just waiting for them to start the process.
I think we'll get those in before the weather gets nasty, maybe.
Well, the critical one is Rainier. We need to get that one taken care of. So yeah, the weather's not gonna bother us at all there. Davis is another big one. That should be step number 2 for them, but hopefully.
Good.
Chief, did you have some questions for the radio?
Yes, so I'm gonna try to convey the extreme frustration that staff is relaying to me. And I also was able to understand it by working patrol on Saturday night, and it's with the radio coverage. Over the years, we've talked about radio coverage, communication over the years and equipment, all that. It is getting to a point, from my standpoint and staff, it's getting to an officer safety critical point. At one point, there was mentioned when we had the radio tower put in here that there be some improved communication in Longview. That has not been our case. Over the years, we've been told to create radio events. We're to the point that those are useless. They're pointless for us to radio event created because we're having radio problems throughout the city. In particular, our car radios are a little bit better, but in particular, it's our portable radio. I was in the 200 block at 23rd the other day, and I couldn't hear the port. We had to have dispatch repeat the radio traffic so we knew what officers were responding to a different call because we were on a call. And we're like, what are they responding? It sounded like there was some urgency to it, but we had to have them repeat the radio traffic so we could try to understand, do we need to divert from our call to go? And I'm just on portable radio handling another call. It's getting to a point that where I've actually directed staff, we're in the process of working with a vendor that I'm gonna have to purchase some trunk repeaters to put in our patrol cars. Those are expensive. I've heard anywhere several $1,000s to try to make this purchase, but it's getting to a point where I can't in good conscience as the leader of the department, kind of sit back and not take a stance. I'm not understanding why. Like, this isn't like an everyday thing that I don't know what Day Wireless currently working on every single day. I mean, sometimes the radios coming out of dispatch, we can't from their console. Maybe it's because of the transfer, but we can't understand what they're saying. So I'm getting feedback. Hey, we can't hear you. Sometimes they can hear us, and vice versa. We can hear them, and they can't hear us, or the other way around too. It is getting very frustrating for staff, but it's also more importantly to me, it's an officer safety issue. And so, like, to the point where I have to do something. And I don't know where we're going to find money to buy these trunk repeaters. I was told that it could be up to $15,000 for these trunk repeaters, but this vendor says this should resolve at least partial the issue when we're on portable radios. Because my understanding is our portable will then connect with the trunk repeater, which would then go off the car and then get to a better connection. I'm getting out of my lane, speaking of how radios work, but we have to do something, at least on LPD, and I can't speak for the other agencies, but it's getting bad. And like I said, there's no point in creating these radio events because we're doing them all the time. I think it's something that our radio provider or vendor should be working on daily. So I guarantee the cost of losing an officer is gonna be a lot higher. And sorry, I'm just trying to.
No, that's perfectly fine. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll talk to Deanna this afternoon. We will address that specifically with Day Wireless. And that, I know it's not fast enough, but part of this review from an engineering firm will help us know exactly where our downfalls are in the system and what our coverages are and aren't, and where we're having those specific issues. And we anticipate that that will not only aid us in the RFP process of purchasing new equipment and things like that, but the intent is to have this, do a top to bottom review of the entire radio system. We agree with you, and the dispatchers are equally frustrated, but I appreciate the critical nature, because I agree, it's an officer safety issue that we need to address. So we will do what we can do. We'll have some conversation. We got Dave Barnes on site today. Dan and I can talk with them, and we'll get back to you late this afternoon with what we learned today, with what we can address now. But we'll continue to strive to improve the system.
And I agree with you. Hey, we need to go out next year. No, that makes sense. But waiting, I mean, in all reality, you got to bid, I mean, we're looking at June at the earliest next year, trying to get any equipment done. I mean, that's just the way it works.
Agreed. Yeah.
Jim? Is LT having the same sort of issues?
Well, there's been issues since the beginning. They're nothing that nobody doesn't know about, like low sound volumes, these type of things. But we have, I mean, since we're on a roll here, we have a couple of concerns we want to bring up to add on to what Robert's saying, particularly last Sunday. Snow video. Fallouts. We had a structure fire. I got on my phone on Zello like I normally do. I'm down in Woodland, so I usually just kind of monitor it. And there was nothing. And then we get tapped out again, and there's nothing. And so I contacted our time chief and I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "We have no 911." And I understand that there's going to be technology issues. That's to be expected. We got a lot of technology here, a lot of technology on our end too. But I guess the question that I have is, and if I'm wrong, tell me, but what my time chief's telling me, no phone call, no nothing, that everything's down and have been down for some time, for 12 months. That's the part that I find, I guess, unacceptable. It could be a phone call, it could be an email blast to every person that might be a stakeholder. Something, but let us know, because we don't sit there and listen to the radio all day, especially at night. But if we know, that's exactly what we told people to do. To sit there and listen instead of waiting for a tone. That wasn't working.
Yeah,
And I don't know what the issue was. I'm not here to criticize that part. I'm asking for some little better communication. Do you know that there's a problem?
I appreciate that. We do criticize those points. We did have a power supply hardware failure in the paging system, or in the paging system, sorry. And that has since been addressed, and I know Don's working on, next step is to have monitoring on that, so we're aware of that. Or in more timely fashion.
So you guys weren't aware of it?
Not in the very beginning, we weren't aware. Because Don could probably explain it better than I can. The power supply didn't fail completely. It was kind of just not doing what it should have been doing. So the lights were on, it appeared to be working, but it simply wasn't getting what it needed to send out the tones. And as quickly as we discovered that, Don came in, we were able to remedy it and carry on. But yes, it was down for a few hours, and we're aware of that now, working on how to prevent that in the future. As to when paging or sending out tones goes down, I'll work with Jerry today and make sure that we'll put out a memo that should that be the case, there should indeed be an email blast as well as phone calls to all agencies. And I think, Jerry, we probably know who we need to contact at those times. And we'll make sure.
Provided us a list or mobile officer on call,
chief notification, kind of a page, we just need to get that finalized so that it can we can create a category, we can make notification using that method. And yeah, I would suggest probably a phone call even more so than an email, because our people can't sit there and computer all day. So,
John,
Yes,
you said that it has been addressed. There's a public comment saying how, and can you explain why was it down? Is this a new building?
I'll let Don take that. It was our paging system.
Yeah, so there's we have the Zetron pager at Ocean Beach, and the power supply for that actually went into a failure state where from the system, we received a garbled response. So we went through all the troubleshooting processes, and then including power cycling the hardware until we determined that the power supply was actually in a failure state, and we replaced that power supply. So that system, the first reported problems we had was about 11 o'clock, 11:15 or something like that, Sunday morning. And then our final resolution was in the evening on Sunday, like 7 o'clock. But during that time, the manual paging process was effective. I'm a little confused why we don't have. My impression was when we switched to manual paging, that still sends out tones to everyone. It's just that extra number of steps for the dispatcher.
yeah, no, we obviously went on call. But we talked through, I think, the frustration that I'm hearing is not an explanation, a phone call about what's going on, right? So that we know how to fill that gap.
And I think we do, like Jerry was saying, we do have procedures for the outages where we create the cabinet. We put a specific unit on it, and that triggers text messaging. And we can add procedures for phone calls on that.
I think to further answer the question for whoever asked it. Was that a new piece of equipment, or was that something that's transferred over, or
It's a very old piece of equipment.
it's an old piece of equipment? Okay, so old piece of equipment in our new building.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. That's what I figured, but
I've now built a new power supply for it, and it's completely operational.
So John, in preparation for the consultant to come in and kind of do a top-down evaluation, we've done our, I think we did a pretty good job early on with radio issues and creating a radio event. But I want to make sure that they're getting the right diagnosis and know what the symptoms are. Would you suggest going back to being diligent about radio events between now and then so they have a clearer picture? And
I would, yes.
would there also be a secondary piece to that, to where we maybe just get some anecdotal situational, like when this happens, we have these issues, and get that from some of our leadership on the road, some of our supervisors? We kind of draw that up and submit that to you guys as well.
And I would anticipate this consulting firm person would meet with you guys as well and get a lot of that feedback. I mean, the goal is to make sure you guys are happy with the system.
Okay, and I think from a leadership standpoint, all our agencies need to go back to the radio events and be like just on it until we get those people here, so they have a 60-day or a 90-day window of being able to evaluate.
Yeah, and I had noticed previously that there were a lot of calls in the city limits of Longview, which historically was not the case. I mean, not like it is, like you said, the 200 block of 25th, or on Commerce, and it's like, these aren't normal, and had met with Day, and there's something going on with the alignment of the system. So when it gets out of alignment, then the coverage just goes to crap in Longview. And they did recently, probably a month ago, do an alignment, and that helped things for a while. Now I see periodically, and I know people are tired of doing these reports, but if we're not hearing that, really the urgency is like, okay, it's kind of hit and miss, and we're getting one a week, you know, a couple during the weekend. Everyone is critical. I get that. I'm not, you know, trying to diminish, you know, that is a huge issue and we know. But the more information we get, the better kind of analysis, I think, for everybody as well. And it is a huge deal. I mean,
I would suggest, and maybe this is already happening, but I would suggest your dispatcher, your decision makers too, when it comes to being able to grade into that. They don't need a cop to tell them or a fireman to tell them. They can just say, look, I can tell there's issues. And they create their event too, and they have.
they do. I mean, they are really proactive about that.
Good.
Because sometimes, I mean, we'll get a text message and it'll be like, you know, 3 units were out there and we couldn't understand any of them. So,
Yeah, we do hear those where field units will say, I can't hear you, and we get from dispatchers as well saying. Apparently they can hear us, but we can't hear them, and we're getting that feedback. But yeah, we will ensure that whatever engineering firm is selected, that they do indeed meet with each agency to make sure that we understand what your needs are, where the failures are there.
John, there's another question. Why police radios are bad also, and are they double checked on a daily basis, like a system check?
Why, say that again, I'm sorry.
Why are police radios also bad, and does a person double check on a daily basis?
We have firmware updates on our radios, probably quarterly, I would guess. And we've asked our provider to tell us if there's anything that's so far out of, so that kind of will lead us to whether or not our radio is the issue. I think we can probably do a better job, because I don't know that we're doing all of our mobiles at the same time.
Who's your vendor for your radios?
Well, it's the old Cascade. I'm not sure they even call that anymore. Yeah.
So the answer, Bree, is law and fire radios are having issues. And as far as checking them on a daily basis, there's routine maintenance that I assume the agencies are doing. And we have Day Wireless working on our system nearly weekly, but some of these failures happen at different areas, different times that yeah, we address them as they arise, and that's part of this project, is to address the entire system proactively.
And just to add to that too, I'm not hearing that it's a specific radio problem as far as portable radios or mobile radios that our responders are using. It's more of a system-wide issue. And those portable radios and mobile radios are used on a daily basis and project on a daily basis, I think, for most agencies too. So I mean, any piece of equipment can fail at any time without warning, but it's not like the radios are not being checked or maintained.
The other piece to add to that is that it's not necessarily just the location that's causing those feelings. When you're in a specific location, your radio is probably communicating to a specific receiver. And if there's something in the system that's happening, the timing, like Deanna was talking about, where that receiver its timing is drifted or it's off or something, you may experience that in that location at a specific time, that there's a problem, but that's something that is more based on the system itself and not necessarily on the geography of the location. You know, so that's why you may have, and we're going to collect all these radio events and give them to the consultant so they can look at that, not just the location, but the timing when it occurred, and they can cross-reference that back with the recordings to the radio and see what is going on.
Just another clarification for people that may be listening into this is that while we have a new facility here, most of our radio backbone is old. And that's something that's been worked on through this grant process and things, is to upgrade that system, update that system, and find those areas that need to be changed or use new technology or whatever on. So just because we have a new facility, which beautiful and we really thank our community for supporting this. But a lot of the equipment that's attached to it is very old technology.
I'm just hearing the conversation. I'm wondering if when we have this RFQ go out and we're looking for a kind of a long-term solution, but if we could also ask them for their recommendations on short-term fixes.
Yeah.
For the interim,
Yeah.
until before June, between January and June. So if they see some stuff that we could do on a short-term basis to make it better in the interim, I think that would be helpful, especially if we get some experts in. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions while we're talking on radio? Or Deanna, do you have anything else for the radio update?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Has there been I do have one question. Has there been an update recently? Maybe one Jerry question. Map updates?
It's been a number of weeks since we've done a map update.
Give me a guesstimate.
I think September 8th, we got an update. And then the last one from last week, there were some issues with, so it hasn't been pushed by.
We're thinking on Bayou asking, I don't know if other regions are seeing this, but we're being dispatched to areas that are not ours.
Yeah, we got to, chief.
Yes. And so we understand that these updates have to happen, but is there a process of where we could possibly review before something goes into effect? And it's not a trust, it's just to kind of verify. Our lines are weird, right? Especially start getting out west. And I'm guessing you guys might have the same issue, but I'll tell you, it's extremely costly when we send an engine to a mutual aid area. I have to replace them person for person. Double overtime. They go block that area. So it's important to us to make sure that they're right.
In the short term, yes, we'll review those again. We know that down on industrial, those lines are blurred and strange. In the next, hopefully by the October board meeting, we're working on a professional services agreement that will come to the board for approval simply because of the value of it. Mapping is a unique beast, and it's kind of an art form as well as much as it is science. Mapping and using the Esri software as such in the regular world is one thing. Using it in public safety is believe it or not, quite different. So we are looking at a professional services agreement that will, with a company that we can hire, that is focused on public safety mapping, and we'll be able to improve how we use our maps. Just as a rough example, in the Esri world and in regular mapping world everywhere, they think that a city block is a range of 100 to 199. Well, in public safety, it's the first house to the last house. So it may be 105 to 185 instead. So there's some subtle nuances like that. There are times in public safety to deal with the issues like along industrial and the private property and such, that we need a fake road or a fake address. And that's just not the norm in regular mapping services. And there are unique ways of dealing with that. So we're looking at a firm again that will be able to have our mapping systems focused on public safety and the way we do business. And that will help us immensely going forward. But in between now and then, like I said, hopefully we'll have that. We're waiting for a quote to come back from them right now. We've submitted our data to them and they're reviewing it as we speak. Hopefully we'll have that on the October agenda for approval for professional services agreement to go ahead and hire that firm and have them start working right away. But between now and then, we'll do another review. I'll have Don work with our mapping folks and see where we're at on that. Those particular areas that we know are. Thank you.
John, can I bring up one thing on the RFQ?
Sure.
So from the feedback in here, I'm gonna add a couple adjustments to that RFQ to make sure that that's part of it, that, you know, they're gonna meet with user agencies and we want long-term and short-term immediate solutions for some of these coverage issues. If you're okay with that.
Sounds good.
John, there's another question.
Sure, go ahead.
They said there's no answers on how to make the old work now. Does Dawn work at the center daily? Is there a list of emails that the public can use to ask questions of board members and employees?
Okay, so the first part, does Don work daily? No, he doesn't work 7 days a week. And he's not on site 7 days a week. He, as much as we would love him to just live here. But he's here as he's scheduled to be here. And his work takes him to sometimes in this facility, sometimes at the Hall of Justice, et cetera. And then the second part of the question was being able to email the board. Is that the question?
They would like a list of emails that the public can use to ask questions of board members and employees.
Okay, who is asking for this list of emails?
The name on here is Harriet.
Okay. We can put some email contacts on our website as to who the board members are. Is that what they're looking for? I think we have some of them there.
And
On our website, we have our internal contacts. We don't have the board members listed individually. But yes, anyone's welcome to email us anytime. And if they want the board notified, we can certainly forward those to the board. Anything else there, Bree?
not yet, no. I will let you know if there's anything that comes back.
Okay. I would, Bree, I would suggest that any other comments you give or have from public that they, because we're not in the public comment portion, they can email those or we can address them after the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Hubbard.
Okay, any further questions or discussion on John's report? See, we're at the end of our agenda. We have no old business listed, no executive session. So it comes down to the last, this adjournment. If somebody has one final thing to say or announce, we are adjourned.
I just add, my question was asked, what's the elevation of Abernathy? It's about 2,600 change.
Thanks, Jerry. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you all very much.